Hey everyone, welcome back. Quarantine time. A few minutes here. Sent out the tweet. There's background noise. I'm real sorry. I'm quarantine time, and my sister actually does work from home. Well, because of quarantine. Anyway, just wait for oh. So yesterday tweeted out little lady I'm working on here. She people were curious about the textures. Um, Pretty detailed, pretty cool. Hate to be self, grandizing, I suppose. But yeah, she's looking tight. And I've done a couple of videos on my technique before, but not in the context of a like character model. We did it for environments, we did it for UI stuff, but it's pretty much the same technique. But there's some differences, and it never hurts to show it to more people, show it in different context. Started. Hello, hi, my name is Matt. Good to see ya. Your stuff's looking incredible too. Very excited for you and for me to play it. Let's jump right in. So I actually made some changes. So if I get frustrated with that, we're gonna just do her backside here. But on her sort of gun battery, I had wanted this initially, but I did sort of an easy, sort of just texture over the top. Let's open her in Blender to show that real quick. So if you don't know, in Unity you can double click on assets and it'll generally be assigned to something. I always do just to keep it as a Blender file within my Unity project. I can do things like that, double click on it. Material. I already knew it was there, but I wanted to show you that you can click on the material and then click on it in here and then here. And double click it here. Bring up the texture. Anyway, what I was getting at. In Blender, Alt-Z will give you your texture view, and I already had the texture loaded. But I added these little flaps, like missile launchers. I want to show off that texture. It's real simple. I do a lot of cheating. I say, as you get better at Photoshop, like you don't have to be a good artist. I don't know how to say it. It's just, I don't know. I think that's the mark of it. Sorry. Again, I'm not trying to sound like a genius, but as you get better, you just learn more and more shortcuts, and it's just. And I've talked about this before too, that a lot of these techniques you still see in modern games. Dragon Quest XI is the best example in my opinion. You can just see, they're basically just using Photoshop layer styles, which is what we're going to do. There might be a few little patches of silence as I stuff my face with chocolate chips, so. Check the chat, nothing new yet. So, I had wanted these, but again, I just threw that in there real quick. I wasn't sure if I was going to have them, but I did. And it's a cool opportunity to sort of change what we have and sort of show my process for how not just like the technique, but sort of my methodology part of the process, where I use the more sort of like things on there, it's like the more you can like design around it. Like I did with these barrels here, L to link select, and then I did this like pattern around it, and then around the gun battery itself. I keep wanting to do sort of a trim like along here, but it kept not looking good. Like along here it looks nice. Anyway, so we're just gonna start jumping right in and design around these flaps. How they're designed to open is they're selected. So if you're not already doing this, I really recommend start working around a 3D cursor. So you're going to be doing Shift S a lot because that makes cursor to selected. You'll select certain things, and then whenever you do rotations and stuff, or like scaling, if you need to flatten things together, it becomes really powerful. you're still a beginner, you like don't stress if you're not doing it, but as you get better in Blender, use that more. So they just open up like this, and it looks pretty dope. Game real quick, a little bit better. Like I only have the one open. You can imagine, those fly up. It's looking scary. Missiles and crud fly out, and it's like, oh no. That's what we're going for. Already unwrapped this. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to show. Go ahead and select everything. I made some changes. I had to move some of the UVs around. So we're gonna go. I do this all the time. It's like I don't know if you have to have them all selected. And you clicked UV, export UV layout. I always do fill opacity 0. 2048 is my size. I try to keep a clean desktop, but mostly it's like notes. But I always have a UV export PNG that I can just double click on. And so whenever I export anything anywhere, I just keep overwriting that same file. And we already opened that up. We're going to zoom out all the way like this so that you can see the borders. Or else it won't place perfectly and you have to line it up. Then we just, whoops, sorry, my mouse has been double clicking a lot. It went away for a while and then now it's back. So we drag that in there. Go ahead and hit place. Then we have to zoom in, either because of Blender or because of Photoshop. I don't know who the culprit is. It's always 2 pixels off, usually down. So he'll control and do up, up, and blind up again. Hide this old one. Go ahead and lock this layer. The reason you lock it isn't because you necessarily are afraid about this layer. You're afraid of doing good work on that layer. So let's say, you start rendering something out and you realize you did it on your UV layer and now you have all these like gross lines on it that you have to like go and smudge out, or you just might have to start over. So that's why you lock it. That way you don't do good work on that layer, because you can always just re-export it. That's not a problem. All right. So I like to have it open in both. We're going to be working on the model a little bit too. This might not look very good, so we'll have to maybe shift these plates around. They look good open up, so I'm hoping to just go ahead and make that work one way or another. And like I said, if I get frustrated, then we'll just work on her backside here, because it's big, clean, nice shape. It's just there, ready to have some cool textures on it. Same with her legs, but I was getting real frustrated. I tried a bunch of different stuff. It wasn't going so hard, so this turned out good though. The front looks nice. So let's go ahead, get in there. So have our new UVs exported. So these are the flaps on top. Actually, so what I have, and I was real strict about it this time, just by coincidence, I have just like a single, there's some little exceptions, but I just have like a core shadows layer, and it's near the top. So we'll actually just go ahead and do, because I don't want to like hide all the other layers. I don't have them grouped, so it's going to be easier to just do this. It went in there, but it's, oh, I have it on overlay, sorry. So usually I actually don't have it on overlay, but my white's got kind of like too extreme, and so it's pretty basic. What I go in is usually like do some ambient occlusion, which you can actually not bake in, but you can go into Blender, and you can export a texture that is just ambient occlusion that's like actually calculated, which can be nice. And artistically, you're gonna make some changes anyway, but I have never actually done that, but it can be helpful. That real quick. So it's just basic shadow shapes. Usually what I do is sort of, whoops. That always looks so BA though, like, like when you're doing a robot and you see it in this view, like it's just that classic look, like the schematic look. It's so sick. I'll do, we kind of have like our front facing ones, or ones that we want more emphasis with. I'll lighten those. Side facing faces, because I don't really focus much on lighting, like dynamic lighting, I should say. I go in and do this. I did a lot up here along, I did like some reflected light, so it's like a little bit darker here. Sorry, I'm not actually like texturing it yet, but you get the idea. I sort of, and this needs to be redone because I shift the UVs, but I hated how it looked. So then, that's not, no, occlusion layer for some reason. So I kind of had that separate at first, but it's all just like this core shadow layer. And oftentimes I'll be like having like a million different layers, but you can just be prudent and like keep it all on this like shadow layer. It'll do a lot. What I've done in a lot of other videos I talk about is I just have like an actual like physical real world texture. I think this one was actually generated, but it was from, a free texture site. It is tileable, but it doesn't need to be because I have it unwrapped. And I just put it on overlay. We'll go ahead and crank it up to 100% so you can get a better idea of just how it looks. And you might like that look. We're really looking like, I don't know, like a Wii game or something. I don't know. But see, that grunge looks pretty cool here, And check it in our actual engine, see how it looks. That's looking pretty sick. So we may want to go back to that. But again, it's Photoshop. It's dynamic. We can keep it. And when I'm working, I like it toned down anyway, just because it's easier to see stuff. See it without the texture and how it adds a lot, but there's something nice about no texture. Sorry, I keep doing that. You may just like that, depending on your style. But this just adds an element of like physicality that is just awesome and easy. So that's sort of the foundation where we just do a texture on top here with overlay. Depending on your own artistic sense, you'll want to mess with the levels a bit. I didn't on this one, but on some it goes a long way. Like a lot of my environment ones, I darken it a lot. I get sort of like this look. Like the lights kind of like become more emphasized and everything's a little bit darker. It's just, the point is to match your sensibilities and match your style, because you're using something from the real world. So it's real important to match your style or it's going to look like a generic. So like how you would normally like draw or illustrate, things like that. So, and hopefully this just means no one. It's okay if you're not. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Save that. And just like the Blender file, this is a Photoshop file within Unity. And I try to cover the basics just real quick, things like that, just in case it is new to some people. So, go ahead. We'll do this. I think we'll bounce back and forth because I want to cover that. So I have that core shadow layer. Let me readjust here. And, I rendered it a little bit. Let's go ahead and check it out in here. We're going to do her backside here. What else is nice? So it's great to have it, available in your engine here. Viewable in your engine, rather. See how it's going to look in the scene with your shaders and things. And then in here it's nice because you can have orthographic. Gives you a better sense, and you can just hide things. Oops. So if you do link select with faces selection, you will actually link select. I don't know if it's based on your actual seams or if it actually looks at your UVs. But it's sort of like if I undo that, do link select with the faces, it only grabs that. If I do with that, excuse me, my bad, it will grab that. Anyway, go ahead and hit H so we can hide it. I don't even know if I'm going to have these exhaust pipes. Like I have this sort of like diesel punk theme. I hate to like, this wasn't intentional, but kind of like got this Final Fantasy VI feel. Maybe I shouldn't be ashamed of that, but anyway, I just hate to be derivative. So yeah, now we can see this much better. Let's go ahead and give that, you can see how simple that is. I just threw some white in. We'll blend that out a little bit better. When you're in Blender, hover over your texture and hit Alt-R, and that will reload the texture, so it'll update it. So in Unity, you just click on it and it does it automatically. But in Blender, you have to hit Alt-R over here to make. Please let me know if you have any questions. I don't know, text me. Some of you have my number. If it's not, You are texting, it's just not showing up. I have better faith in the OBS one here. Sorry, this is like a slow start, but it's okay. It's quarantine time, right? So in our layer, you with the control tool, or by holding control and right clicking, and select layers if you don't know that. Another important reason to have your layers labeled. And this is like some undercarriage stuff, so I don't care too much about cropping it out, and it's easy to erase later. Another reason why having one layer is nice. Oops. It's because when you need to go in and erase, you don't have to erase like on 16 different layers or whatever. Back here, classic Photoshop thing everyone complains about every day. You have to do something on that layer. If your first action is on a new layer and you undo, you will go back to the old layer, and no one wants that, and yet that's what it does. Like I mentioned, so we're at 100% opacity here. I have it set to overlay, so our whites will never get too bright, and I generally want that. But there's times where you might not want that, so then, so like right here, I actually have like another layer where I can make it brighter. It's just, you know, just a concession you have to make, because the overlay, the overlay blending looks really nice. So actually, this video is about technique, so go ahead and take it off overlay. And see here how it gets like really blown out. And you might actually like that. Another little bug in Photoshop, if you change the blending style, it won't let you save. Like if that's your last action. So you have to, I do that. And I don't know if it's just this version or what. Yeah, blowing out that got. Right here, like in the legs and stuff, you may kind of like, oh, it looks like I toned it down. But like up in here, it's sort of a different look. And you may want that look. It kind of it flattens out your shadows, which I don't like. But there's a nice quality to it. Like it's pretty in its own way. That really reminds me of like Wii games. Anyway, just something to keep in mind. Overlay helps a lot, but it can only get so light. But it means the lights really pull away from the shadows. So that way we can highlight stuff and then all these shadows like pull through. Let's go ahead and we'll work real quick here. We're not gonna, and honestly, when we start doing the other stuff, we don't really have to render this out too much. Sorry, I'm losing my voice already. Partly because of allergies. Kinda intense this year. So what I like to do, go to transfer, actually bring it down 10%. And we'll just blend this in a bit, give it some better shape. This is not very contrasty, so we will probably want to up that contrast by darkening in here. Here. So we're just sort of emphasizing the shape. And if you have like really nice lighting, you won't really be doing that. You won't be texturing like sort of like lighting type stuff. So that gave it better contrast, but kind of want more emphasis up here. So up. That. Transfer means like opacity higher the harder I press. So we have that part done. Could hit her little, I don't know what you call it, a hubcap, wheel well? What do you call that? Is the wheel well the hole, or is the wheel well like the, I don't know. And it's not a wheel, it's a leg, but. I don't always go back and forth so much. It just kind of depends what I'm working on. Like what aspect of the piece I'm working on. It'll go a long time without looking. that. That's kind of an issue, unfortunately. If you hide that stuff when you go into object mode, it brings out the hidden objects. The reason I want to go to object mode is because I don't want to see the verts. I think I can turn it on now. Visible. I think there's a way to show it, but not a big deal. Engine here. Yeah, that's looking cool. I might bring it down a little bit more, the light here. And then it's also important to run around in your engine. Because you want to see, the assets as you'll see it as a player. We're going to be running around like this. Generally going to see them like this. See her. Well, it looks pretty good. When we start actually adding texture and stuff, it won't matter as much that this is rendered very nicely. The overlay texture, like the actual physical real world texture that we overlay on top, plus the little details that we add, makes it so we don't have to render that well. And as we add these details, we're gonna have like some, I hope my mouse is showing up, but like on the barrel of these shoulder guns, you have these like spiky decorations. We're gonna want some like local lighting changes, like to simulate sort of the material. So yeah. Now we can get to the fun part, the part where we cheat. When I do move to 3D, I want to picture like this so bad. Cool. It's really easy. It's I love it. It's satisfying. It's fast. I mean, she's taking kind of long. She's kind of complicated. Oh yeah, I wanted to show off like a super huge version of her. I think it would be cool too. The initial one that you fight is this size, but huge one's looking really BA too. She's hiding behind the fence. So it's gonna depend on what you're doing. We're doing sort of plated armor, sort of like the feel. I mean, I do a similar thing for almost anything. These bricks, you can see how like mechanical these bricks are. They could be a little bit better. These ones look better. But we basically just use layer styles. Sorry, on the wrong thing. So all of these, just grab this one, is just like just a really simple layer meant to do. Hardly even see it, with some layer style effects on there. What I generally do is an outer glow for a shadow. So go put it on normal, size 18. I'll just try and remember that. And then an inner glow, and you make it really small and kind of bring the opacity down. This can actually be normal, it doesn't matter too much. And that'll give you like this highlight along the edge. That is really unrealistic, but it looks great. So over here, I actually do bevel and emboss. So in that context, it actually gives us some real lighting. You know what I mean? So like along the edge here, it's like light. On the underside, it's darkened. Turn it off, you can see. I still put that inner glow on there. I tone it down a bit. Oh, looks like it might be the same actually. Just to give it pop, because it just looks good. I don't know how to say it. Like on all these, like on her toes here, it just looks better. I don't have any bevel and emboss. On these I do, these little like vines, but it's just that inner glow. And then we do some extra like lighting stuff, but just because the nature of 3D texturing and you don't know how the lighting is going to be necessarily, kind of appreciate that it just sort of pulls away. So this is a good example here where I actually put the bevel and emboss on this outer one, but on this one I left it off because I really needed it to pull away. And you might find that you like the bevel and emboss everywhere where it has like the more naturalistic lighting. So anyway, what we do then is actually just copy the layer. So what I like to do, because it's the same, do Alt drag. Does that do it? Okay, so Alt drag while holding control or with the control tool will duplicate your layer, which is awesome. This, I'm actually going to get rid of the color data there by lowering the opacity or the lightness to black and then going back up to gray. We're going to go a little lighter so it shows up. Now we have that. Just real quick, we'll show it in the context of the asset. So just looks like a mess there. Same thing, just looks like a mess. So we want to actually start arting it. Killer stuff, that is all. Thanks. Go ahead and Control A, delete, Control D. Going to grab a gray. Actually, grab that gray. So with the eyedrop tool, you can set it to current layer or all layers. Depending on what you're working on, it's gonna matter a lot. So because we have all these different layers on top of each other, it can be nice to be able to grab what the color of the actual layer you're working on is. 100%, Control A, D. So now we just start making something look cool. So I sort of have a, I always do that. I'm like, what happened to my thing? And because I grabbed the wrong tool. Our theme is sort of these perfect circles with this spade shape. So we're just kind of going to stick with that. My first instinct is to have it point down here, but we might find that we don't like that, but we're going to find out. So this, and when you're working in here, it's not always going to make like perfect sense, like where your curves should be and things like that. So you're going to go back and forth at first so you get a sense of like, okay, like this is actually where the edge is, even though like in texture space it doesn't quite look right. And in real quick. And these layers are beneath the core shadow layer. Forgot to mention that. Overlay layer is always like way on top. There's going to be exceptions where like you might have other stuff and you'll need to group those or whatever. Like I have those glow effects, which will end up being like an emissive layer anyway later, but it doesn't matter. Overlay on top. And then we have these core shadows, which are also really high on top. You can see some others up here, but they're like things that I haven't covered. And then beneath that is everything else. So that's where all these like simple layers lie. Again, dark outer glow, light inner glow that's really thin. Go ahead and just make like a nice little shape there. See how that looks. That looks okay. I want a little bit sharper, I think. A lot sharper, I think. So we just start working. And you can see like right here from this side view, it looks pretty pointed. But if you compare it to like the angle of your UVs here, like in this quad, you can see, oh yeah, it actually is going like pretty much sideways there. And that's why it doesn't look pointed. And that's what I was talking about, how you just kind of get a sense of like the angle actually is. If you hit R in Photoshop, you can do like a canvas rotate. So it's not actually rotating your data, it just rotates your view. I don't need this too much. I generally try to unwrap where that's not an issue, but like here I needed to do it in preset view. Just something I might end up doing that on this one, but we'll see. We'll just go in by that. It's that same shape. And given the nature of sort of like the curvature of this like shell on the back, I'm gonna have to probably like change it a little bit. So I mean that looks fine. Probably do a little bit better. I think a lot more pointed. There's that thing coming into play where, whoops. I think I need to rotate it. That curve there. That looks kind of cool because we have that taper out. And then here's my dirty secret. Only what I do. I guess we'll work from here. I just duplicate the layer. Go to the one below it. Drag her down. Art is dead. Let me just do that. you know, that shadow shape on top, or that shadow from the like the layer style that goes on top. Um, Depending on like the shape you do, you can see that maybe that's not working, or maybe this one we just need to drag down, fade a bit. And that already looks cool. See that? Like playing into the qualities of like the model is nice. So having it like spread out like that, where maybe, you know, the plating is like thinner here and it spreads out, I think that's a cool thing to emphasize. Just do that. It's quite not quite nice of a shape. Doing all this rotating and unrotating is actually kind of going to destroy your pixel quality on that layer, so you have to go in and touch it up, but a little bit better. But yeah, like on the side there, that's tight. But we like that. So, I mean, I already had a sense that we would like that plating because it looked really good up here. But it's just getting like a shape that you want. Things like that. I also generally like to have, like I mentioned, emphasize the edges. Do this first. So, whoops. Control T. Transform. That. Kind of nice. I got a bit too. Better. Yeah, so right. We don't have to be good at art anymore. And maybe that just doesn't quite suit you. The methodology I've been kind of going for in this one is like I do these sort of big macro shapes like this, like on the legs here, and then I go in and like maybe do that pattern repeated up close. This got real messy. I need to redo it, but on the toes I kind of like had this big shape, and then I did that sort of plating look right here. You know, I went real hard with that look here. It just looked really nice. But then we ended up gonna just redo that. So, but how much time do we lose? Well, none, because we just duplicate the layer and, you know, and that little trick is, you know, pretty sort of specific. I need a drink here. To what we're making, but you know, this other stuff, the layer styles, and I mean, I'll probably just do another video next time I do like a person character, humanoid character, I guess I should say. Get a sense of the other things because it's pretty similar. Like when you're doing clothes, you're doing more of this like modeling out here, at least in this style. But so I'm thinking, go ahead and grab that top one. Okay, that, Control A, delete layer, and come at it from the other side. So like I said, I kind of like to have these like outlines. I'll try this. Actually, I think it's like here, right? Because this is where the ambient occlusion is. It already looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, see, man, God. I love art. Y'all love art? See your texture press for other characters? Oh, thanks. Duplication, that is right. We don't have to be good anymore. So that already looked pretty tight. When I first started this layer, I was going for this part. Thick. We could do something a little more fancy. The tough shapes, like the big strong spades and stuff, have been working better for the characters, so. But it's kind of nice to have this sort of fancy stuff too. I got a good mix on the head there, where it was like, there's still sort of aggressive shapes, but it's really kind of sort of that floral decorative look, so. But I didn't want that everywhere. That's a little low, but it looks pretty good. Here, let it bring that up, and we'll do a way better shape there. But yeah, that decorative stuff didn't look too hot. And we may want this like even on like a new layer. Go ahead and duplicate. and it is still running really well. A lot of times when I have a lot of these fancy effects, like some of my environment assets, like since I have updated my computer, I can't open some of my um because I need to clean up some space, but I couldn't open up some of my textures because they were way too huge. And I have a ton of RAM, but it's like how Photoshop handles like scratch disk, it calls it. It just runs out. My hard drive's tiny, only like 250 gigs. Punch into that. Now we're kind of on top. That didn't really matter too much because of where that overlap happens. But you can imagine how it would be nice to have, keep clicking the wrong thing, sorry. You know, this on top of that, but you may like it. You know, again, this is all artistic choice, where this is sort of like one sort of like shell. That, you know what I mean? You know, given our asset, you can't even tell. I will go in and go ahead and, because another thing I do that I forgot to mention, sometimes it matters a lot with Kate's big old gun sword here. Please, let me click you. I did this a lot, where when I do my core shadows and then I do like ambient occlusion a little bit, I also highlight 100% opacity with white. And then as I work in the other shadows and effects and things, those get knocked down, but it really emphasizes those edges. And it worked real well for here. As I worked on her, this gun beast, it ended up not mattering. Like I did it. I went through and added all these like highlights. Like I have this like highlight layer right here. All these lines, but they all just ended up sort of getting pushed away. So I ended up not doing it for a lot of the surfaces. But like with this sword, I did it everywhere and it looked amazing. So that's another little thing I end up doing. So you just like follow along your UVs. I just noticed it along here. But I'm just going to let the layer style do it. So go ahead and just delete all the way up here so that this shows up, that white outline. You go in there and just gives us emphasis on that edge there. So, nice. Yeah, it's looking pretty boring. Let's make that cool. How does your lighting work? Curious to see. Appreciated look appears. Yeah, it not always great, but I like it. The like character here, and right now it's grayscale. As we add color and stuff, it's gonna be nicer. This is the final step, and a lot of what I do is like I use gradient maps for coloring. And this is just a solid color, so it's not gonna look great. But how gradient maps work, if you don't know, is it takes the grayscale value and so like black to white, it will do these colors. So, you know, we want our whites white, but we want sort of like this yellow light, and then like this warmer yellowish gray, like base color, and then this darkish sort of green even here. I guess this one's all green. Never mind. I'm thinking of this one. A little more like warm. Save that. See, and that looks really nice. And under the lighting, I have a pretty consistent lighting scheme in this game. Everything's dark with spotlights. I mean, that's basically every environment. So it looks nice. And spotlights are nice because they have an effect of the direct angle light, but they diffuse a lot. You can see how it's lit here, and then it fades out across that, and that'll give you like some, you know, variation, just that nice, just artistic lighting quality that everyone likes, honestly. You can see just with the grayscale, it looks nice, and then this like warm light hits it, and it can have its own sort of quality there. So yeah. So yeah, I just have simple lighting. I don't have like a directional light in the scene. I would like to do a little bit better with my environments. I did not learn how to do environments very well, even all this time working on this game. So But if you want a good sense of like how something that really depends on lighting but still has a lot of style, well, I'll give you two options. Obviously, Final Fantasy 12, you can go up and download those models. Unfortunately, they don't have. I've ripped a few textures from the environments. I'm just going in with the emulator. It's really painstaking. It stinks just to get one texture. I could probably write something to process some of them, but anyway. Um, but yeah, just go check out. But the character models, everyone loves those, so those are easy to find online. Just find those texture sheets. You can see how they did it. It's real similar to this. It's that PS2 look. That wasn't the look I was going for. I just wanted something where I could like paint. I wanted my artistic hand to be in my textures, to make it look more like an illustration. So check out Final Fantasy 12. Just look up those textures. But if you want something that really depends on lighting but still has a pretty good sense of style, is Smash Brothers. Maybe you're not into the style so much, but you can see how different the textures are. A lot of it is like just ambient occlusion. It's just like these solid shapes. Like you're basically just like coloring. And the extreme example of that is the Xrd, the Guilty Gear ones. It's just big squares of like the color, right? And then they have a separate texture that will add color to the shadows. And I think they just multiply it. So that other texture is real similar to the top one, but it's just like a shadow texture, and it will color the shadows based on what colors are on there. So again, the in-between is like the Smash Brothers ones, where they have like a lot of ambient occlusion. So it's like just big red shape, like say for like DDD's pants or something, and then like in the crotch and some wrinkles, they have some ambient occlusion. But then the normal maps are like super detailed. So, that's something I'm not familiar with yet. And they are probably generated from like a really high poly model. They go in and they model all that stuff. And they have the low poly model generate some normal maps from that. And if you're not familiar, the normal maps basically, in a simple way, it's not exactly it is what they do, but it's not all they can do. Normal maps will just give you lighting details. So it's like on the crotch, it's not just, you're not going to get just the shadow, like how, like the person asking the question mentioned, it's always going to be dark here. It's actually creating like shape, if you're not familiar. So anyway, just something to look at. The Smash models are also awesome because you go in and download it, and they are textured with their diffuse and normal map, and they are rigged and skinned, and you can just mess with them. It's just really cool to learn how they do it. You can see how simple they are, which I think is really cool. Like download like the Smash 4 ones. They're still pretty new. I know it's an old game now, but anyway, a little bit sidetracked there. Sorry. Feel that. One moment, sorry, losing my voice. But I will say, and I'm excited to try this, there are programs out there, and they're free because we live in just a beautiful world, that will take something like this, and you can work with it in real time, and it will generate normal maps for you. It'll generate height maps for you and occlusion maps for you. And it can even go crazy and like generate parallax maps for you. If you're not familiar with parallax maps, basically like takes this like as a height, you know what I mean? Like it'll take some height, but as this thing rotates, it will actually give the illusion of like real depth. It'll sort of parallax the texture. It's like crazy. And these programs are they're ridiculous. It'll generate like a metallic map as well. So most lighting now is like called physically based, or texturing, I guess. So it's generally, it looks at your diffuse texture, which you're familiar with here, and then sort of calculates the lighting a little bit differently. Like it's basically just shinier the more metallic it is. And a lot of our lighting models are just, they're not real simulations, right? So there's just some fudging there, but it does a good job of like, you can just have a single texture Anyway, but these programs, like, they'll just, you help it, you'll click on spots, and then it's like, oh, that's where you want your metal, and it does just like a crazy good job of like, you don't have to be good at art anymore. It's crazy. Like, I mean, it'll generate like real UVs. Like, this is flat, and even on something like this where we don't necessarily have like the realistic lighting, it's like, okay, kind of recognizes that this is like a change in elevation, and it just does like a really, and you go in and like fix any of the fudging that's in there, and so the lighting will like maybe ignore like these real darks, but you know what I'm getting at. It's just, it's awesome. Let's get back to it here. So we'll touch this up a bit. Feeling like a shape coming up here. Excuse me. Back and forth so much. That looks a little bit better. Down here is a little bit boring. Find a way to make it look better, hopefully. Quality, that's okay, I think. I think really I would want something more like, keep clicking on the wrong thing, sorry. Kind of emphasizes that like upward shape. That looks hideous. But something like that I think would actually look good. And right now we're just sort of messing. See how that could be better, but delivering yet. Looking a little bit better. Probably go in and mess with that a little bit more. This layer isn't, it's a little too fat. The spade there was fat. So better. So we'll mess a little bit with this. Gonna be quiet time for a bit. There's a lot of talking and then now it's a lot of arting. What happened? What's going on, dudes? I think I clicked the wrong layer. This mouse fudging up is like making me grab the wrong layer sometimes. Like if I right click there. This is not going away. So sometimes your driver will turn off when you go back into, and you can tell because this control thing is showing up. That's weird. Because usually that means that like it turns off entirely, but I don't know. I've never seen that. I'm just sort of layering those looks, kind of. Yeah, I don't like that. I do know that I want this. Ooh, that's bugging me though. Whenever I hit control and it shows it, driving me crazy. I want something up. Yeah, I know it's like people are like, wow, how do you do that? And it's like there's really not much to show. You just do these shadow shapes here, and I don't know. We'll get into more here because we're gonna touch up some of this, do some local sort of lighting stuff to make it punch and look good. Here, the shape there. Actually, again, having that layering can look really. Not gonna look quite good. Like come straight down. Well, looks okay. You can see like the change in geometry there. You may want to like play into that. So right here we had this like sharp change. Maybe we should sort of line up with that. And when you're texturing, you can like, there's times where you want to line up with your UVs exactly. So like you'll be doing this a lot. Shift click. Because you want it to line up with the edge, like this bottom edge. But then you have this chunkiness here. And so either you want to go in and compensate, or maybe just like from the beginning, do like a rounded line. That way, at least in here, you know, you have that roundness. And, you know, this isn't like too important because we're not going to be seeing it very well, but, you know, someone's going to see it, right? We're going to go ahead. That layer. Might do one more, or we might like cut into it and give us some space here to like decorate. That's looking pretty dope, honestly. Pull it up a little bit. Now, these sort of some like limitations. The look, not limitations, but from the angle, it doesn't look quite as nice. You know, for jumping up here and like doing combos or whatever, it's gonna look good. But also see how it got thinner up here, and I kind of don't like that. I want to rectify that. These ones I want to out more. A little bit better. That top one, I still think. Because it's like that one on top, I feel like it could just be bigger and look better. Looks alright though. So another thing I like to do, and like have these coarse shadows. That's not what I meant to do. Click on this bottom one. Below that, have like darkening layer. I'll do this a lot. I try not to do it too much because again, we want to keep things on. Excuse me. Oh wow, way clicked wrong. Okay. But have layer here. Darken it. Give us some depth, and like I mentioned, might have some up in here. But that's going to give us a lot more fun to work with. Now, another little secret I do, you can have this all in one layer. It can get a little complicated. I've covered in another video. If you do inner glow, you can do some real complex stuff where you can like have like a shadow shape here, like you can have it dark and then have it light again. You can get some cool stuff because you can even do light, dark, and then light again. But I find it easier just to have it on a whole new layer, so we're just going to do that. Drag this layer out, delete it. It is the inverse of this. So I do inner glow, black, and then outer glow, white. And then I do fill, like low, like 19, and then I just do pure black. And what I do, layer 44, I shouldn't, so I can select it. There's no pixel data, you can't right click on it to select. Like that. So if you control click, this will select the layer, the pixel data of the layer, and give you a selection based on that. Here, I'm gonna delete that first. Shift D to reselect, or we could have gone back down there. Now we go to select, modify, contract, 8 seems about right. It's been working for most of the stuff here. One here with the pure black. Bop. You can see it got on some spots where we don't want it, so we can just sort of trace it there. Or we could actually pull up this layer on top of it, which would probably look a little bit better, but not going to matter too much. Pull this off of the edge here. We're going to have some shadow color coming in there and it won't look good. Have that problem right here too. Now we load that up, get this sort of look. And we could duplicate this layer, or we could just keep working on that same layer. Whatever works for you. It's going to depend on your own situation. Obviously, the more layers it is, the nicer it is. But oh, I wanted pure black. Probably can't tell too well that pure black matters, but it does. And there, you can see it's not looking too hot on this one. We may want to try something else. But like on here, I did that a lot. It looks sick. Here, here. So it's just another sort of layer to the effect itself, and it just adds some nice depth to it. So yeah, there it's looking good. Got some like interference with the actual overlay texture there. It's making it look maybe not ideal, but and then sort of maybe give it some more better quality artistries to hit it with that. So now we got something like that going on. Looks pretty cool. It actually looks really cool, honestly. I like that a lot. So I might wait and do the whole thing, and then we'll do like a nice sweep across here. That'll kind of like mirror this, but it's actually like lacing in there. Oh yeah, it looks sick. God, I love art, dudes. Sorry, I just feels right. You feel good. Pass that on to other people and just yeah, it looks like there is like a bit of a mistake in there. Was my opacity wrong? Huh. Weird. I have my whole new layer, right? I can just do that. Oop. Nope, still doing it. I don't know what the deal is. Deal may be that the underlying layer had some low opacity by accident. So when I selected it, it like didn't do it right. No. There we go. What is turned on all the way? I don't know. It's kind of lagging. I don't know. Like when you have the spacing up, you know how it kind of like lags? Felt like that. And like I said, you could have this on a whole new layer. This is actually what I did up here. But there's pros and cons to both. Yeah, that's weird. Huh. I have a bit of a mistake on these layers here. Not a huge deal. I mean, obviously we rectified it, but Ding. Questions, let me know. Questions about other stuff, let me know. I always record at weird times. I wanted to try to do it. I get so tired. Like I don't want to say strict bedtime, but like after 8, I'm like, you can't do anything. Like sometimes I can get some work done, like on my game, but can't play Guilty Gear. Can't play easy like casual games. Can't really work and do good work. Sometimes I can. It was the opposite when I was growing up. Like this is a nice memory. Like my mom would always let me stay up if I was working on art. Not like I would exploit it, but if I was like up playing video games, she's like, all right, bedtime. But if I was working on art, like painting or whatever, like okay, when you're ready. I'm like, okay, thanks, mom. Mom's amazing. Thank her so much. So let's see. That looks good. Ooh, that's not quite. Went down a little bit too sharp. And I thought it might, but I was just like hopeful it wouldn't be. Even that, I need to just start up higher. That looks pretty cool. Not quite though. Hitting like this ring, it's like that's not doing it. Rings here. We want below that, so we have that contrast. A little bit better. That other one looks nicer. It had more of a roundness. Alright, we're gonna be here for a minute. Good. Pretty sweet. But it's still pretty plain still. We probably want to hit it with more decorative stuff, which we'll get to. We're gonna work on some of that local coloring stuff I mentioned. I want this to pull up more. That's a little bit better. Because I'm lazy. Lazy is not the right word. Industrious? I don't know. Got a little too fat. Do want to go. I want that to really overlay on the top there. I might just have to make a new shape, but well, maybe overlaying isn't as good. I do like it taller though. We'll stick with that at least. But they're like kissing right there. I kind of hate that. Go all the way or get out of here. You think something up here would be nice. I'll get to some of that local coloring stuff I mentioned. So on each of these layers, generally a lot of our lighting happens with that core shadow layer up on top. But like the old dodge tool, I just learned Photoshop, so now I dodge tool everything. Don't overuse the dodge tool. But if you know how to use it, I'm not saying I'm an expert. It goes a long way. We want to emphasize these edges here. And I kind of want it to like, well, I don't know yet. For sure, I want to emphasize these edges. I'm not on that layer. God, I've done that so many times, like just in the past couple days. Sorry for sure. Probably crank up that view, and so now looking a lot more metallic. I did go a little bit too ham on the top there. Well, I think part of it's because of the lighting. Hold on, back in here. Yeah, probably a little bit too hard there. Back it up. Oh yeah, That's another problem. I think I only have like 20 undos or something like that. Just like, how do you live your life like that? I don't know. Hit it with the dark too. Kind of just doing that. Wobbling between light and dark. Gradients. Give it that metallic look. And we could have done this like I did up here. I did it actually just on the first layer and then duplicated it over. But the lighting's a little bit different on this one. I kind of wanted control over it. Or maybe the real reason is that I forgot it. That. Bop. So that's looking cooler. But we did lose like a lot of like luminosity there, which I don't like. So again, hit layer a bit. I got too light there. Dang it. Even though that new layer we did here, pretty low opacity, it will show up a bit if we go ahead and lighten that. Or darken that. Well, it's pure black already, so darkening won't do anything. Looking a little bit better. And we may just need to... It's actually looking a lot better. Do some other stuff, like maybe just throw in like some highlights going down here. Maybe with the core shadows. We'll see how that goes. If that doesn't work, we'll hit it with some more local light stuff. This fluffy brush, soft brush, I know what it's called. Line here. It's going to give us nice sort of highlighting along these rings. Going to look a little more naturalistic and just give us nice quality. So probably a little too light. That does not look great. My bad. I did it again. I only have like a few undos. That's all right. My mistake. Another reason to do a new layer, but I have a really bad habit of getting like just hundreds and hundreds of layers, so I'm trying not to do that anymore. Re-emphasizing. You want to see it without any lighting. It kind of looks kind of cool. Like if you did like pure like dynamic lighting, you'd look more like this. Like you'd still want these like shadow things coming out for like some occlusion, and then you know everything else just be all flat like that. Looking a little bit better. The contrast is nice. Being a little bit too heavy-handed, I think. Hard to know sometimes because it can look way different like in the that's gonna do it locally. It wasn't working. I mean, I could probably do a little bit better job of gosh darn no, I'm on the dodge tool. I swear it's getting darker. Is I on the wrong layer? I don't know. That was weird. Dodge tool. I swear it's getting darker. You all believe me, right? I'm going to emphasize these rings here. It's not looking so hot. Well, it's looking better there. But like on the front here, I got some like real nice stuff. Like on here, it's like, whoa. Gotta keep working at it, I suppose. It's looking a lot better though. Another thing I like to do is do some like mass lighting here. I get a little too light, but increase that one by 10. Do Control U to do HSL changes. Use saturation and lighting. 5, leave that one the same, and then we'll drop this one by 5 or more. Whoops. Control L's levels, which is similar. but I always hit Control L because I'm thinking of lightness. Oh gosh. Now we have like this gradient, and that can look really nice. We did a lot like down in here and on here. Kind of hard to tell because I added those things. Looking pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. Still disappointed with like why this isn't lighting better. Yeah, I was worried it was like just not. Gotta hit it harder, I guess. That. Some nice specularity. There we go. Now we're making art. Sick. Good. Break. So I'm feeling like similar to this, but like repeating, like show you. Delete. Don't delete yet. Delete. I have had a lot of trouble with this. Sometimes I just can't get the look right, even though if it's like awesome in my head. That one I mentioned along the leg here. Along here, it just looked all messy. I redid it so many times. It's just hard because it wasn't unwrapped well down there. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses. It's just really worth the headache. What I'm getting at in a roundabout way. This. See that top layer there, not quite how to go in and just crop that out. Wait to see. So yeah, that's tight. Probably want some like fancier shapes, but that is sick. Turned out. That yeah, cool. Art forever, dudes. Kind of hard to see it. We might want to change it. And I'll just leave the game running so we can just in there. See how it's maybe a little bit boring there. I want some like bigger sort of shapes. Like I thought I was hitting pretty macro with these big plates here. You can kind of tell, like let's just zoom out here. Kind of just plain. You know, we can improve the lighting, but something else, a little bit of something. And I might have like a hatch back there. So we might want to do like let's see. Layer, frame, bring forward, control, left bracket. Actually right bracket, which I was hitting. But bring that to the front. Something going on there. You know what I'm saying? Like that. And I know that ruins a lot of like what we had going on, but I kind of like that. mentioned before, I did like a lot of decorating on here and I didn't like it. So I went and added these like big plates, and I kind of like that. It just like shows through. And if I end up hating it, I can kind of go back and make it look like it was more intentional. Like that, I think is just nice. Might not go on this too long. And part of the problem is, like I mentioned, I might want like a hatchback there. Like, fire even more missiles, I guess. Like that, like a bigger macro shape, like good looks. Ooh, that. Oh, I thought it would. Low angle, because that's how we're gonna see it. Yeah, I don't know. Almost like I didn't make these big enough. I don't know. Or maybe like there's just been like a couple plates, like 3 instead of 4, so they're spread out more. Or like and I meant to test this in the beginning, but I forgot. But if we layered them up instead, that might look a little bit cooler. Because of how we see it in this lower view, it might look nicer. But see, like that looks sick. And maybe I should have done that instead and layered that. Like I mentioned, like, well, I guess there's two things. A, layering it so as we go down, it gets closer. And B, um, facing the spade the other way. So there's a lot to consider. We'll try this one real quick. Like pertinent stuff. Control Shift inverse. Inverse. Control Shift I to inverse select. Clean that up. Having that little gap there is actually nice. May not be good for armor, but it is good for art, for looks, for fashion. Now that one's on top. Now we have more of a look like that. We could do this forever. A little more boring, but layers now. But it's not a lot chugging at all, like, and it is saving fast. Like, if it saves fast, then you're fine. Like, didn't go very far. There's a ton of just junk. Like, did not look very good though. It looks good in here. It looks bad in the scene view. Here. Looks not bad. Yeah, that looks way cooler. The problem is we didn't have like a great theme. I think looking at some beetles or something, even though she's a Moa, it's like gave her this sort of like shell back. I don't know. We could go a million different ways. That about does it. I mean, I wanted to sort of hit this up real quick. I guess I could just mention I'll keep streaming because it's fun. And it's quarantine time. We're all desperately needing social interaction. But again, I'll keep streaming. But for YouTubers right now, or YouTube viewers right now, this is basically concludes it. She's cookies are so good. But we would have been better off with a little bit more Problem is that like when you're first starting, it's like, yo, that looks tight. But then you start to notice problems. Really like that. You just never know. Run around a bit. Think. And that has like a nice quality to it. Oh, it's on that layer there. Okay, that layer. Inverse. Oh, I want to go on the lower one. Inverse. Top one. Actual shape. Then we're gonna bring that one top. Okay, that's what I want. I want on top of all that. Looks a little cooler, I think. It's hard. That other part looked cool too. Like, like let's say if we same effect. I might do 9 pixels, make it a little bit thicker. Excuse me? Oh, it must be. Must be that. So I'm actually going to duplicate that layer. Delete it all. Delete all of it. Delete almost everything. I'm going to go 10. Bring it on up. Whenever you're ready. Excuse me. Oh, I had the eraser. I do that so often. Go. Thicker, it's looking cooler. And we don't have to like totally follow the shape, you know, we could get a little more fancy where we like some adornments like this here. It's looking real similar to our old one, but it's like it's slightly different. So that's looking cool. Problem is that like with this sort of we do this, it's like too decorative, and I think like with this big shape we kind of want like, and here it looks good, but something sort of like strengthening looking. Now I'm like, we want back at 8. No, we'll do 9. 10 was too much though. 10. No. Have that. And we'll go in and add like that fanciness, but maybe like what we really want in our hearts like that. You know what I mean? Wow, that looks hideous. I kind of thought it would, but I think it would look that bad. We have more shape in the middle here. Cool. Looks okay. With the look I wanted. Dead. Cream with it. Duplicate the layer again. With it. There you go. That. Wow, that's hideous. That is not it. You're doing like some weird like skeleton look maybe, but Cool Beetle does not approve. Cool Beetle Beetlebird. We're just making a mess now. But one of my new rules with game dev, one of the biggest lessons I've learned working on this game is good enough is good enough. So I don't know. I'll leave it for now. We have a good foundation. Hide that. Is that all of them? I had the wrong one. One of them I had the wrong one. Oh gosh. Now I've done it. Hiding layers is not step in Photoshop. It won't be that. Yeah, I already like that better. Maybe some like spikes coming up here. Where exactly? Like outside of the ring? Let's see. Maybe even like this. This. We'll see. Outside of the ring, we thought of the. Really outside? Arguing with yourself is. Ooh. Should have mentioned. Retweet it out. Tweet it out. I wasn't on mute, was I? No, good. Well, these streams are never like that exciting. I mean, I think people do want to see like the beginning where they learn, but from my own experience, I'm not saying that they're without merit. It's just a lot of the same after a while. I just struggle. Streamers don't necessarily like to stream puzzle games because a lot of times you're like, and I'm sure there's some who do it, but the fear is that you'll just be stuck staring, which is fun when you're actually doing those games, playing those games, but looks pretty. Barely gonna see that, but I don't know. They got a little too messy. There's something to that though. I could just find like a nice initial shape. Grab that new layer I made. Yes, all the way through because those gaps there. That looks a lot nicer. Give us more depth, more breathing room. That other one's just like a little too busy. Yeah, I think I'll leave that up there and then we'll just do something fancy up in here. Let's see, like on the head, which one am I here? That. Good. Sir. Nice save. There we go. Good. Oops. Nice. That, heck yeah. Cool. There. Regret using that same layer because I wish this would come out from underneath it. But I suppose we can make gating the layer. This is so minor, like player's really not gonna interact or see this much, but they might. Here, yeah, cool. It could be a little bit nicer, but I don't want to. That actually does it. I get a little anxious if I stream too long. If people have any more questions, and I could do it again. That stuff up there I wanted to do. And I'll try and remember just to do it next time I do like a person or even just anything. So yeah, just a lot of that. Layer styles. We have this bevel and emboss one too. Gives you kind of a different look. I'll just mess around on them real quick. Yeah. Oh, this is cool ankle tattoo. So it's a little bit softer. It's a little more sort of naturalistic too. Like, be really nice. It can look kind of gross up close, but far away it looks tight. You kind of just have to work with it. You can see it kind of looks like clay or something. It's not like perfect, but if you work it real well, keep your edges like real sharp. That's part of the problem is like, you have to be real precise with it. Like working with clay, or excuse me, wax. Never worked with wax. You can get like really, really, really fine detail. It's fun. Very good shape. I kind of hate it. Kind of don't want to look. Ankle tattoo. Yeah, that looks cool. So bad. And then similarly, color overlay on that. Gonna cheat. do a new layer. Normally I do it on that same layer, but I'm using a color overlay on that one for some reason. Quick, some local lighting stuff. And you could do like a gradient overlay, which I'll do a lot too, but there it has like some nice gradient to it. Get it even harder. Line down the middle, give it specularity. Sweet. Got the UVs on there, looking nice. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. You can support what I do at patreon.com/Culture Attack. If you ever have any questions about game dev or art or just anything about being trans, even, let me know. Everyone's support has been amazing in all regards of my life, so I really appreciate. Quarantine thing is kind of freaking me out. So it was nice to stream, even if it didn't have too much interaction. But yeah, thank you all so much. And also follow me at Twitter at Culture Attack. I generally like to follow back if that's your thing, and just let me know if you want to follow. Really, I don't mind. Like, I like to follow. I like to say that like I collect game devs, like I collect Pokemon, so that's kind of fun. Anyway, love y'all so much. Take care and stay safe, please. Please quarantine. Please self quarantine. Sorry, I don't mean to get too political, but everything's political, right? But seriously, it's important. You know, you think like it's an overreaction, but it's important. But thank you all so much. Bye.